Hello, I'm R.A. Spratt, and I want to welcome people joining us this week on the Yoto podcast platform. Now, just so you know, most of the bedtime stories I tell here are standalone stories. But over the last year, we have been dipping in and out of the epic story of Odysseus, the hero from ancient Greek mythology. And this week, I'm going to be telling the second last installment of that tale. So if you can jump in right here, that'll be fine. I'm sure you'll pick it all up. But if you did want to go back to the beginning and start from the first episode, you can search back through the episodes. The first episode's called Odysseus, as told by Nanny Piggins, and it dropped on January 8th, 2025. Or you can go back and listen to any of the other episodes. You're going to find fairy tales, myths, legends, and mysteries. I hope you enjoy them all. Now let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Bedtime Stories with me, R.A. Spratt. Okay, well, first of all, thank you to everyone who came along to the Sydney Writers' Festival on Sunday. I did a little bit of a performance at their family day. It was a bit of a chaotic event. This huge room and there's lots of people and lots of noise and there was a stage and it was really hard to hear when you were up on stage. But, you know, I hope everyone had a great time. It was really great to see you all and thank you everyone who came, patiently waited and got their things signed. It was lovely to meet you all and hear what you've been up to. So that was really nice. I will be doing another event in Sydney for launching Romeo and Juliet in October. So you will get another chance to see me if you want to come and see me do like a full 50-minute show later in the year. All right. What else do I need to talk about? Well, I was going to get back to doing the story of the Odyssey and Odysseus today, but after the Writers' Festival, as I say, it was a bit of a chaotic day. I was performing, then I was signing, then I was performing, then I was signing, and I went like 4 hours without having anything to drink, and I got a bit dehydrated. And yesterday I just had like a shocking headache all day, so I couldn't really, I researched everything to do the next Odysseus story, but I just couldn't sit down and write. My eyes weren't working. So I thought, the new Friday Barnes book is coming out. I think it's on the 10th of June that it officially will hit bookstores. So I thought, that's only 2 weeks away. I should read you something from the last Friday Barnes book to get you back up to speed if you're interested in getting the new book when it comes out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read one of the mini mysteries from Friday Barnes 12. So what do you need to know? Well, because it's Friday, obviously a girl detective. Her best friend is Melanie. Her boy frenemy, on again, off again, is Ian. And this book is all set in Switzerland, where Friday has rushed to Switzerland to help her mother, who's in trouble with the police. So I'm going to read you from starting with chapter 10. We'll see how far we get today, and I might finish up this reading next week. And then the week after that, I'll read the first few chapters from the brand new book. All right, so let's get into it. Chapter 10, The Police Station. I demand that the questioning begin immediately, said Friday. She and Melanie had been taken down to the police station, but once there, the officers didn't really know what to do with them. They were only 15, and they weren't supposed to put children in the holding cells, so they were still handcuffed, but they were sitting on regular chairs in the open plan office. We can't question you until you have a responsible adult family member or legal representative present, said the detective sergeant. First of all, there are no responsible adults in my family, said Friday. They're all physicists. They're not interested in anything physically larger than an atom. Secondly, I don't have any legal representation. I've only been in Switzerland for 45 minutes. I haven't met any lawyers yet. I'm sure Daddy can send one for us, said Melanie. If you let me use your phone, he'll have the top lawyer in Zurich here immediately. Which brings me to my third point, said Friday. I don't want to wait for a top lawyer. I want the questioning to begin immediately because I'm the one who'll be asking the questions. I don't care what you ask me. I know I haven't committed any acts of terrorism. To the best of your knowledge, said Melanie. Okay, so I accidentally advised some terrorists one time, snapped Friday. That actually makes me much less likely to do it again because I'm aware of the danger now. Yes, Friday, said Melanie. I'm sorry to remind you of your dark time. Which brings me to my fourth point, said Friday. As someone who lived with my mother for 11 years, I'm pretty sure that planning a terrorist event is beyond her. She never remembered laundry day, or where she put her car keys, or to put petrol in the car. If she tried to build a bomb, she'd probably forget to put explosives in it. I can't discuss the case with you, said the detective sergeant. Of course you can, said Friday. I'm her legal representative. You can't be. You're 15, said the detective sergeant. I really doubt the legal code has an age limit on legal representatives, bluffed Friday. Perhaps not, said the detective sergeant, but that would be because common sense precludes it. Has she asked for legal representation? Asked Friday. No, said the detective sergeant. We offered her a publicly allocated solicitor, and she refused. There you go, said Friday. She's mentally incompetent. She needs a family member to be present to advocate on her behalf. She has a husband for that, said the detective sergeant. He's a theoretical physicist too, said Friday. So, said the detective sergeant. Would you want a theoretical physicist acting as your legal advice? Asked Friday. This is ridiculous, said the detective sergeant. You can't browbeat me. I'm not letting a 15-year-old terror suspect talk to another terrorism suspect. Sarge, a constable called over from the other side of the office. What is it? Asked the detective sergeant grumpily. Her lawyer's here, said the constable. Whose lawyer? Asked the detective sergeant. The girl, said the constable. She's demanding to be allowed to see her client. The girl just said she doesn't have a lawyer, said the detective sergeant. The brother brought her in, said the constable. My brother, said Friday. Which one? He had a silly name, said the constable. That could be either of them, said Friday. Was it Quantum? That's the one, said the constable. That would make sense, said Friday. It was his window I was smashing when you arrested me. You'd better let them through, said the detective sergeant. Moments later, a tall blonde woman wearing a grey skirt suit strode into the office. Quantum was following close behind. Oh, no, not her, groaned the detective sergeant under his breath. He evidently knew this lawyer. Hello, said the woman, holding out her hand to Friday. Friday took it, which was awkward because she was still wearing handcuffs. My name is Miss Decker. I work on behalf of CERN. As you are a family member of 3 CERN staff members, I am here to act on your behalf, or rather your family's behalf, because you are a minor and therefore their responsibility. Okay, said Friday. She liked this stern woman. It was refreshing to deal with someone so clearly competent. Ms. Decker turned on the detective sergeant. He leaned back slightly in his chair. He wasn't a coward, but he instinctively wanted to create space between himself and this intimidating woman. I insist you release my client immediately, said Miss Decker. I'm not releasing her. She's a terrorism suspect, said the detective sergeant. You have no evidence against her, said Miss Decker. You can't detain a citizen indefinitely without evidence. Her mother is in custody for a terrorist act, said the detective sergeant, and this one has a track record. She has a track record for never being convicted of anything, said Miss Decker. You can't detain her without just cause. We need to question her, said the detective sergeant. Also, you arrested this child using excessive violence, said Miss Decker, when you had no reasonable grounds for arrest. She was climbing through a smashed window, said the detective sergeant. The constables took evasive action to prevent her accessing a highly classified campus. Dr. Quantum Barnes' work is not highly classified, said Ms. Decker. He's been working on the same algorithm for 4 years without making any progress. The only thing of value you could steal from his office is his coffee cup. Quantum glowered at having his work described so dismissively, but he didn't say anything. She smashed a window, said the detective sergeant. But it's our window, said Ms. Decker. I am the legal representative for CERN. That window belongs to our organisation. We encourage scientific thinking. If a child wants to conduct a scientific experiment on the effects of Newtonian physics on a window when force is applied with a brick, then we celebrate that critical thinking. We don't press charges. We have questions for her, said the detective sergeant. And I've got questions for him, said Friday. I'd actually quite like to stay and speak to my mum. Is she being detained here too? Oh, yes, said Miss Decker. That's the next item on my agenda. I do have evidence there, said the detective sergeant. Enough evidence to hold her. Trumped-up evidence, said Miss Decker. You're hiding behind the overly elastic counter-terrorism laws to incarcerate an elderly lady. She's not that old, said the detective sergeant. She's only 55. She's postmenopausal, said Miss Decker. She hasn't eaten a nutritious meal in 30 years. She's been living off instant noodles. Her bones are probably made of chalk. What exactly is the trumped-up evidence that you have against Mum? Asked Friday. It's nothing, said the lawyer. It's a highly detailed diagram of the Large Hadron Collider, said the detective sergeant. I would have thought you'd be more protective of CERN's intellectual property, especially when it's a piece of technology that could be used to replicate a black hole, potentially destroying the planet. You haven't let me see the diagram yet, said the lawyer. I don't know if it's anything of significance, and I don't see how you can know. Dr. Evangeline Barnes is a once-in-a-generation genius. 99% of scientists at CERN couldn't understand her work. They're all specialists in very different fields. Almost no one knows how the whole thing works, and yet you claim to understand the significance of her notes. We'll get experts to decipher them, said the detective sergeant. There are no experts who can understand her work, said Miss Decker. She is the expert. She's operating on a level far above anyone the police can afford to hire as a consultant. I'm not consulting the local high school science teacher, protested the detective sergeant. I've contacted NATO. I'm sure they can provide an expert who'll understand the military potential of what she's selling. Oh, please, said Ms. Decker. It's ridiculous to suggest a foreign government would try to copy our experiment anyway. It cost 4.5 billion euros to build, and all it does is shoot tiny particles at each other. It's not a weapon or an energy source. It's the world's biggest and most boring pinball machine. Then why is she selling the diagram? Asked the detective sergeant. I don't know, said Miss Decker. I haven't seen the diagram. You see how this conversation is going? In a circle. It's absurd. Why don't you bring it out here right now, said Friday, so we can see what it is that Mum's been accused of trying to sell. Then you'll see all the information, protested the detective sergeant. The super collider is super complicated, argued Friday. So long as we don't take a photo of it, there's no way we can memorise the diagram. Melanie coughed. She knew this wasn't true. Friday stepped on her toe to tell her to keep quiet about that. If Mum hasn't done anything wrong, it's much better for you that we figure this out now, said Friday. Because if it's found out that you wrongfully arrested a Nobel laureate, the amount of money your department will be sued for will be huge. Nice use of legal threatening, Ms. Decker complimented Friday. Have you considered studying law? No, said Friday. There's not enough scope for the imagination. Fine, said the detective sergeant. Constable, fetch the diagram from the evidence room. The constable disappeared. There was an awkward silence. Ms. Decker took out her phone and checked her messages. Quantum stared at his shoes. This is where normal family members would make polite inquiries about each other's health, Melanie prompted. Friday looked at Quantum and grimaced. You know you should practice your being normal skills, said Melanie. You don't want to end up like the rest of your siblings. This was true. Friday took a deep breath and launched into an attempt at conversation. So, she said to Quantum, how have you been? What? Asked Quantum. As a sibling, I thought it would be an appropriate conversational gambit to inquire how you've been since I saw you last, explained Friday. Oh, said Quantum. I've just been allocated additional funding so I can do more modelling for my gravitational hypothesis. I didn't mean your work, I meant your health, said Friday. How is your health? Quantum looked puzzled. They're the same thing. Ugh, your family is weird, groaned the detective. Now you should inquire about my health, prompted Friday. But I can see you're well, said Quantum. It's evident from your appearance, aside from the red discoloration around your nose ring, that you're in good health. Friday whipped around and confronted Melanie. You didn't tell me my nose was red. I didn't notice, said Melanie. You've got a nose ring. Trust me, most people don't look beyond that. The constable returned to the room carrying a large, clear, plastic snap-lock bag. There was a white cloth neatly folded inside. The detective sergeant put on a pair of surgical gloves and took the bag. All right, I'm going to take this out, said the detective sergeant. But no touching. It hasn't been fully analysed by forensics yet. He opened the bag, carefully took out the diagram, and spread it open on the table. Friday, Quantum and Miss Decker all leaned forward to have a look. There was a circular drawing in the middle and a complicated diagram alongside. But surrounding and inside the whole thing was a mess of equations scrawled hurriedly in every direction, sometimes overlapping each other, with arrows shooting back and forth from one area to another. Since you're the brainiacs, you tell me, what is it? Asked the detective sergeant. It's brilliant, muttered Quantum. He reached forward to run his finger along the line of an equation. No touching, snapped the detective sergeant, smacking his finger away. Just explain what this is. It's her research, said Quantum. She's been working to incorporate gravity into the standard model. There are limitations inherent in the mathematical language we use to express physical truths. She's been working on a conceptual evolution that will circumvent this roadblock in our understanding. This here, he indicated one point at the bottom of a long scroll of increasingly hectic mathematical symbols. This could be it. She'd need to run simulations, but it's so elegant. It just might work. So she was selling crucial scientific breakthroughs, said the detective sergeant. She was stealing intellectual property from CERN. No, said Friday. Just because this is important intellectual property does not mean she was trying to sell it. It was on sale on the internet, said the detective sergeant. That's where your theory starts to unravel, said Friday, because I know for a fact that my mother has no idea how to use the internet. But she's a brilliant scientist, said the detective sergeant. Everyone can use the internet. Oh no, said Friday. There are any number of basic everyday skills brilliant scientists fail to accomplish. I can vouch for that, said Miss Decker. Last week, I had to counsel a secretarial assistant for throwing a 32-pack of toilet paper at her boss. He didn't know how to change the toilet roll himself. He could fire a hedron at 5 times the speed of light, but he could never get the toilet paper to drop down in the unit when the first one was used up. So he would get his secretarial assistant to do it. After 5 years of working with him, she'd been worn down. She snapped. As a result, we had to institute a rule that no one is allowed to ask anyone else to handle toilet paper on their behalf. Yes, this is the type of thing my mother would do, said Friday. She has 0 practical life skills. There's no way she'd be able to put something up for sale on the internet. So she had an accomplice, said the detective sergeant. In a way, yes, agreed Friday. Your father? Asked the detective sergeant. Laughed Melanie. Have you met him? Asked Friday. No, said the detective sergeant. Barely a functioning adult, said Miss Decker. Hey, Dad's knowledge of string theory is world-class, said Quantum. String theory doesn't even involve string, said Miss Decker contemptuously. It's so far removed from actual everyday reality, it might as well be a fairy story. Then who is she working with? Asked the detective sergeant. A spy? A lover? Oh, gross, said Friday. No, I'm guessing a waiter. What? Said the detective sergeant. Well, you asked what this is, said Friday. Yes, and your brother said it's an important breakthrough in physics, said the detective sergeant. And I know enough to know that that could mean all sorts of real-world and possibly military applications. E equals mc squared led to the atom bomb, didn't it? People like Marie Curie and Albert Einstein come up with their clever theories, then other people use them to make weapons. Yes, said Friday, but aside from being a scientific breakthrough, this is also a tablecloth. What? Said the detective sergeant. It's a white square of material, said Friday, approximately 1.2 metres by 1.2 metres, the standard-sized tablecloth for a 2-person table in a European bistro. It's hemmed, and if you look under this side, in the corner, there's a small tag that says, Friday reached over and read the tag, 100% polyester, made in China. China, said the detective sergeant. So the Chinese government are behind this. No, said Friday. You have to think like my mother, or rather, think about how my mother behaves. She works all day from 8 in the morning to 6 in the afternoon. Then an alarm on her wristwatch goes off to remind her to eat dinner, but she can't cook. She's actually been banned from preparing food in her apartment, said the lawyer. She tried to heat a frozen lasagna without taking it out of the foil container and blew up her microwave. That doesn't surprise me. And Mum hates waiting, said Friday. She'd hate the time between ordering and the food being put in front of her, so she'd want to keep working. If she had a pen, it's only natural that she'd start writing on the tablecloth. But then why did she leave it behind? Asked the detective sergeant. Because of this, said Friday, indicating another point in the scroll on the tablecloth. Quantum was right about her equation up to this point, but down here, Friday pointed to a small, dense note of spidery scrawl. She continues with that line of thinking and disproves her own theory. Oh, yeah, said Quantum, leaning over to look at the other corner of the cloth. Oh, what a shame. It was such an elegant solution. So the idea was wrong, said Friday. Her meal came, she ate it. She probably forgot all about the notes she'd written and left without giving the tablecloth a second thought. Then who was selling it on the internet? Asked the detective sergeant. May I touch the tablecloth? Asked Friday. Sure, said the detective sergeant, handing her a latex glove to wear so she wouldn't contaminate the evidence. Friday carefully picked up the corner of the cloth that had the maker's label and turned it over. There was a stamp close to the hem. The ink had faded with repeated washing, but they could still make out the writing. Property of Borelli's Cucina. Borelli's! Exclaimed the detective sergeant. We eat there all the time. My wife loves their tiramisu. That's where you'll find your culprit, said Friday. Your wife might need to watch some YouTube tutorials and figure out how to make tiramisu for herself. All right, well, we'll leave it there for now, but we'll come back with the solution to that mystery next week. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're all well. I'm off to the Bellingen Literary Festival next week, which is exciting. That's sort of up near Coffs Harbour in New South Wales, Australia. And then I'll be heading down to Melbourne for the big book launch for Friday Barnes 13. So I'll get to see a bunch of people from Melbourne there. There are a few. I think the back row is still on sale at the second show. So if you still want to come, there are a few tickets to the 5:30 show. All right, well, that's it for now. Until next time, goodbye. Hello, it's me again. If you enjoyed listening to Bedtime Stories with R.A. Spratt, it would be really helpful if you could like, subscribe, follow, and or review the show on whatever podcast platform you're listening to now. Every little one of those digital affirmations helps, and the bigger this podcast gets, the more I can justify procrastinating from my real job to keep bringing these stories to you. Thank you.